Hello, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer at Functional Aesthetics EC. We're helping average guys perform better in their lives inside and outside the gym. Today's video is going to be just kind of a brief training vlog, as I like to do from time to time, just showing some of the training that I've been doing, also give you some ideas on how you might want to structure your training as well, based upon the philosophy of functional aesthetics is working around the obstacles that you might have in your day-to-day life. So there is a principle in strength and conditioning training as well as athletics in general called a deload. So you will go for a period of time where you're progressively adding more and more weight to the bar, more reps, doing more miles, decreasing your rest periods, essentially ways of increasing volume and or intensity for a set period of time in an effort to either add more muscle, gain more strength, or both of those things, or in the case of an endurance athlete, trying to be able to run farther or faster in either of those scenarios, right? Now, the thing is, and I'll give you an example from my own life, when I was in high school and I got into long distance running after after we moved out of the country and I couldn't really play soccer with my friends as much anymore, and so something that I really enjoyed doing was running. I got into long distance running, but I didn't know anything about how to train properly for running. And as a result, there's probably some other factors as well, but I just continually, over the course of a year, without a break, just kept on adding more mileage, and would just run farther and farther all the time. I wasn't forcing myself to try to run farther, but I would just, run as far as I felt comfortable doing. I would, basically, if I felt like, I should turn around and come back, otherwise I probably won't be able to finish this thing. But I was always kind of training at the edge of what my capacity was, right? And so after a while, I just started feeling really drained all the time. I would go out for my run and I feel a little bit better because you get that bit of a endorphin boost from the oxygen and stuff and the running. But every day after that, I just felt more tired and more fatigued. And so, I just kept on pushing through it, because people who are like avid endurance runners and also type A type personalities, you kind of feel a little bit guilty if you're not putting in the same amount of effort that you do on a continuous basis, right? Well, at any rate, there ended up being one day where I had to stop about halfway through my normal 10-mile run, and my mom started getting worried about me because it was, a substantial amount of time longer than it would typically take me to run that amount of miles, and so as a result, she had to come and pick me up as I was walking along the side of the road. So I say all this to kind of, give my experience with periodization, kind of explain what periodization is, and give a little anecdotal example there of, as I said, with my own experience and the importance of not always pushing yourself to do more and more and more all the time, and how it can actually be beneficial to take a break or a period of decreased volume, intensity, or both of those things for a week or two, or just a couple days or something, to give your body, before you actually hit that wall like I did, to give your body some time to recoup from all the progressive onslaught of increasing intensity or the volume of your training, so that you can come back stronger. Because as we know, you don't get stronger while you're in the gym, right? You get stronger based upon what you're eating, supplements you're taking, and also the rest and recovery that you're taking outside of the gym, whether that takes the form of doing ice baths, doing deep breathing methodologies, and probably most important of all is just getting a solid 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. If you're doing a lot of training, you might even need a little bit more to do that, because that's actually the time, when you're sleeping, your body, that's the biggest time when your body is producing human growth hormone, which helps you to actually repair all the damages of the day. And so if you're not getting good quality sleep, if you're not taking care of your rest and recovery, if you're progressively just hammering it out and thinking that you can just, do everything and, be maxing out every aspect of your life all the time, it's a real good way to make sure that you crash and burn. So one way that I like to do a deload is by, so I don't actually, I've never really I guess since high school, okay, since high school, I've never really had a good experience with having an actual deload pattern, right? Now, so for all my clients, I would typically put out, and schedule in, this is what we're going to do for our training, and I'll schedule in when we're going to do our deload and all that kind of stuff. I try to follow the scientific best practices for other people, but then also watch how they're responding to it so I can change it as well, because I know for me personally that I don't always follow kind of like this cookie cutter pattern of, say, for example, let's do 4 sets of 8 reps for a couple weeks, and then we'll drop to 5 sets of 5 reps, and then we'll go to 6 sets of 3 reps, or whatever that might be over time. And it doesn't usually follow that linear progression for me, at least personally. And that's usually has to do with because of other things in life will pop up, right? And that's the whole thing about functional aesthetics, right? So your life is not going to be, it's not like you're a professional athlete, right? You have other responsibilities in your life. And so sometimes maybe you're really busy at work. You don't get enough meals in or something. Or maybe the kid was up all night, and so now you didn't get enough rest and recovery, right? Well, that's definitely going to affect your training, okay? And so you have to be able to work around those things. Now, when the time does come where you do need to take that rest and recovery session, deload, back off a little bit, right? This is what I typically end up doing, okay? So usually how my cycles of training, and this works pretty good for me, usually how it goes is I will start out where I'll go through cycles of increased endurance work, because I like to do a kind of a hybrid athlete model of training. So I'll be doing, running, biking, that kind of stuff, right? And then also doing lifting. And my lifting revolves around typically calisthenics or body weight type exercises, bodybuilding style workouts, and then powerlifting style workouts, and finally more actual power workouts, which would involve like Olympic weightlifting, sprinting, jumping, things of that nature. So typically how it goes for me is I will be starting out with, maybe I'm doing more cardiovascular exercises and some powerlifting type training, right? Maybe I'm doing only 2 to 3 days a week where I'm lifting, and I'm lifting heavier but not a high amount of volume, and then I'm doing more like running and things like that, right? In my days when I'm not lifting, okay? And for a period of time that'll work pretty good, and then all of a sudden I'll kind of flatline and getting stronger in my lifts, right? And I'll also start to feel a little bit burnt out on the running, right? So what I'll do then is I kind of start scaling back on the running a little bit. I will start decreasing the amount of weight that I'm lifting, and then also start increasing the amount of reps that I'm lifting. So I was transferring more from the powerlifting style of training more to a more bodybuilding style of training, okay? And then after that, I will then oftentimes go and hit a point where, okay, now I am kind of stalling out on everything, right? So then what I end up doing is maybe kind of a actual kind of deload where I'm focusing more on my flexibility, my mobility, and I'm doing more qigong type exercises, breath work, yoga, things like that. I'm still lifting, but just not at the same level, and I'm focusing on more skill type work with calisthenics and stuff. So maybe focusing on different portions of different calisthenics movements. So maybe planche progressions, or the flag or something like that. Things that are not overly taxing to the nervous system, or using a lot of energy, such as the bodybuilding training, the powerlifting training, or this endurance type work, right? And that's actually what I'm kind of showing in this video here, right? So I'm not doing a lot of volume, I'm not doing a lot of weight, and I'm interspersing it sometimes with some of the flexibility training, some of that breath work, mobility, and things like that. Okay, and then sometimes I also, maybe one skill that I'm trying to work on improving is the snatch for Olympic lifting, right? So a barbell snatch. So my technique, like I could, snatch, but not drop and catch it in the bottom position, right? In the bottom of the squat, because my mobility was lacking there, right? So I figured, well, if I want to truly maximize this lift and actually be able to lift more weight and actually be able to get the athletic benefits out of it as well, because as an athlete, you need to have the mobility and have the ability to generate power and force through a wide range of motion, right? Not just in this limited range of motion. So yeah, maybe you can lift a bunch of weight without doing the full range of motion, but then it kind of defeats the purpose. So one of my goals was to improve my ability in the snatch, and so I looked up some videos on how on snatch mobility drills and stuff like that, and so those are some things that I've also been incorporating from time to time in my lifting. Actually, one of my new favorite lifts is the overhead squat. So for the longest time, my favorite lift was the deadlift. I just loved, just taking a big weight, pulling off the ground, and that was my favorite lift, right? Now, the overhead squat is probably my favorite lift to do, and the reason why is because it not only requires great mobility in the ankles, knees, hips, a shoulder girdle, wrist, everything like that, but it also requires you to be conscious of how you're breathing, so the breath control, and also stabilization of the core at the same time while you're doing it, which just, I feel, makes you a better athlete overall, and which is why I also incorporate overhead squats into all my training, all my clients' programs, unless they have some contraindications to doing so, even if that's just starting out with a PVC pipe, and we start off all of our squat sessions with just doing a couple of overhead squats, some like 4-way lunges, things like that, just to work on that mobility, work on that technique, because you can't cheat overhead squat. If you cheat it, you're going to drop the weight either in front of you or behind you, and so it's a great way to make sure that you are actually squatting properly, and you're also improving your mobility to make sure that you're doing the exercise correctly. So I've been talking for a while here. Hopefully this kind of lays the groundwork, gets you a little bit of an idea of why I'm doing the exercises that I'm doing in the video here. And so without further ado, we'll get into the video, and I will see you on the flip side. guys, that concludes the video. Hopefully you found it informative, gives you some new ideas for your own training. In the beginning, the preface to the video, the explanation, hopefully that gives you some insights into the philosophy of why you might want to do this kind of things in your own training as well. And if you have any comments or questions related to hybrid athlete training or anything else that stood out to you in the video, leave those comments in this comment section below. And if you'd like to see more content related to either diet for either building muscle, losing fat, just athletic performance in general, or workout design, so getting stronger, building more muscle, becoming a better athlete, as well as avoiding injuries and working around the injuries if you do get those injuries, then consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness-related information. Thanks, guys, for watching.